other big giants of embedded domain in US for like 15 years, he decided to move towards management side as well and did MBA from Cornell University and started his own startup. The name of the startup was Quisterium, which was later acquired by Marvel Semiconductor. Then he started another startup known as FIR Quest, which was later acquired by Corigine, all because of the extraordinary progress of their startup. And now, DreamBig Semiconductor is his third startup. And for introducing you to this company, I would like to request Mr. Sohail himself to please turn on his mic and brief us about this company.
Thank you, Hassan. I think it's a privilege and honor to talk to Indians after such a long period of time. As you said, I graduated around 93 time frame, 92, 93. Some of you guys were not even born by then, I guess. Or perhaps most of you guys probably were not born by then. And then I came here, and as he said, did double masters from Cornell as well as from San Jose, and started few companies. So let's talk about Dream Big, and then we'll see if I can take your questions, and we'll go from there. In 2019, when we started this, cloud is one of the biggest buzzwords around, and people were talking about software as well as hardware related to cloud. And this is something that is where we wanted to participate as well. So we have done in the past. My background has always been doing routers and silicons for routers and for switches, and in this opportunity, which basically what we thought about is probably the inflection point of something where we can address the needs of big cloud vendors like Microsoft of the world. And I think at 400 gig, there will be a point when they will not be able to use the traditional methods of driving the data into the cloud. That gives us an idea why can't we use something what we have always been using, which is in switches and router, and an SDN type of an architecture, which will allow even switches and routers to take multiple terabits of data. So that was the basic idea, and it's with that basic idea we jumped on it with a small team. I had Faisal, who is also an Indian, one of the main members of the team, who actually joined me, and from a software perspective, he is right now leading the entire team, and few other folks in this team that have joined, and we cooked up this idea and moved forward with this. Now we are in a stage, we have a team of approximately 70-80 people worldwide, including some of the best talent here in US, and of course some of the best talents in Pakistan as well. I mean, we are very selective in hiring. We have hired people in. I mean, we moved our offices to Lahore just because we know that there are universities like LAMS and others, and especially Islamabad is very good in providing hardware as well as low-level kernel type of people. NAD has always been a fascination for me, because I think when I was in NAD in 93 timeframe, nobody could beat us, right? We were better than any of the biggest IITs in the world. The team, the entire batch is right now in Bay Area, pretty much, VPs, and started their own companies. Lots of things. I mean, I'm talking about not just one person who actually did this, who actually made it through. We had, at least, I think entire batch is doing something which is, either the VP, as I said, or CEO, or started company. And so I think fundamentally the belief is the overall education in energy, at least at that time, was very much focused on the fundamentals. We came here, and masters was no big deal for us because pretty much the entire thing we've studied during our bachelor's time frame was more than enough for just finish up our masters. And I'm hoping that's exactly the same in energy even today. I hope, all right. At least some of the good guys uh, some of the good guys in the top school in Karachi, which is basically NAD, should be able to help us out, and we will be able to capitalize on what you guys have learned in NAD and use it for the benefit of the entire world, I guess. Uh, Hassan, I can keep going, but I would like to know if it'll be better if we can make it more interactive instead of
Yes.
the way that we are doing it.
Uh,
If there is any questions, I'm open to questions. After, go ahead.
Sorry. So one point, there may be attendees other than NAD universities. So this is just for your information.
Okay, I thought it's only an Indian badge. It's perfect. I mean, at least so from all over Pakistan, or it's only just Karachiites.
I think its reach is all over Pakistan because they have offered to everyone.
Okay, wonderful. As I said, personally, my belief is that now some of the top universities like NUST, LUMS, GIK. I know a few guys from GIK who actually came directly from GIK and did their PhDs here in Stanford and in MIT and other places. Of course, I know some of the Canadians also from my time frame, and not now, who came and directly attended, Cornells of the world, or Ivy schools of the world. But hopefully, if not, then hopefully some of you guys may still come from NAD and from other places who would do this. Uh, so far, my experience in Pakistan is very good. That's why we continue to hire. Right now, it's around 70 people in my team, and hopefully we'll continue to grow. The plan is to go all the way to 100, as we think that a lot of software burden is taken over by the team. And FPGA part, we are doing lots of UVM work, which is verification work, is pretty much transferred over to Pakistan now. Uh, and for instance, some of the blocks uh, entirely verified and entirely tested on FPGAs by the existing team. Uh, I'm looking forward to seeing that some of you guys will jump and help us out here. So I'm open. Zafir, go ahead. Any questions I can answer? We can answer.
Well, I was thinking if you could just briefly tell if they get higher here, how they will improve themselves, like professional, what will be their professional growth and technical growth. That would be
Yes.
helpful.
Okay, wonderful. So what we are doing is basically cutting edge. All right. If you look at today, the semiconductor market, uh, TSMC is so basically. Let me explain what how semiconductors works. Basically, uh, what we do is we develop something in, I don't know if you're familiar with Verilog or not, but it's a hardware description language. So we define our hardware, then go through certain tool flows. It generates a certain format. We call it GDS. We ship it out to a fab, and the fab actually manufactures the chip, and then that chip is actually it comes back, and we develop a board and use it. That's exactly what happens in any of these situations, whether you're using your cell phones or you're using any router, switches, your computer, or any of those things. In in this era, the cutting edge technology in fab area, which is uh, you know, like TSMCs of the world. So TSMC is Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. It's in Taiwan, and uh, the cutting edge is around 7 nanometer and 5 nanometer. So the chip that we are going to tape out now is going to be in 6 nanometer. It's between 5 and 7. It's almost the cutting edge. Uh, and the performance of this chip is going to be 400 gig. Uh, Today, there is no traffic, no network which actually supports, from a cloud perspective, up to more than 200 megabits, 200 gigabits, right? So this is a 400 gig traffic that we will be supporting. Now, you can think of this as today, if you look at your laptops, you still do not have a port which is 1 gig, right? Most of these laptops uh, are less than a gig port, Ethernet port, which is connected to it. And we are talking about 400 gig traffic coming in. Now, so the silicon that we are developing should be able to handle this kind of a traffic. The second major part on this one is uh, that since this is sitting on the server, the software stack inside the Linux has to be able to take on to this. So if somebody is in the software division, he's learning the cutting edge technology of how to handle this, and somebody is on the hardware team, he's learning how to handle high speed boards, high speed traffic, high speed chip design. All of these things put together, I think the world is looking, I think, towards Pakistan now with this stability in Pakistan. I think lots of companies are thinking about, and this is a global village now. I mean, it's not necessary that uh, you have to be in US to do something. Even if you are in Pakistan, if you have the talent, companies like Broadcom, like Intel, they can potentially make use of your talent and and essentially capitalize on on a very cheap labor available from this perspective. If instead of putting somebody here in US or in Canada or in some other place, why not in cheaper places like Pakistan, like Bangladesh, like other places? So I think it is an opportunity, but the minimum barrier to entry is you have to have some expertise in the areas of high tech, right? If you are still thinking in terms of uh, web design and databases, those are good technologies to have and learn. But there are other places also that can do this very well, right? If there is a big, let's say, somebody in sitting, in a smaller country as well, with less, technology available to them, they could still do something like this, web-based design, .NET, and other. But in order to do a chip design in 7 nanometer, you need to be trained in that technology. You need to have understanding of what the overall silicon development cycle is, right? Similarly, if you want to develop Linux drivers, you need to be part of some team who is actually doing these cutting edge type of things. Otherwise, learning on your own is very difficult and pretty much impossible to learn. And actually our complete focus is on this. And then the third aspect of this entire thing is high speed board design. Some of the things that Pakistani team has done is on the high speed board design. I know that few companies like Open Silicon, they have developed certain expertise in Lahore area specifically to do high speed board design. I'm not sure if they can handle a traffic up to 400 gig, but that is something we can look into and see if we can train some of you guys. That is another entirely different area where some of you guys can focus. These are back-end services that are needed by the front-end guys. So for instance, if the architecture is developed here in US, all these back-end works like SSS, Linux driver development, UVM, which is verification methodologies, as well as all these board level designs, uh, can be done anywhere. Why not Pakistan? I mean, especially the talent that I know now in Pakistan, for instance, Zafir and Saad and Ubaid and others, they are as good as anybody here in US. I would assume that some of you guys will beat these champions in my team, and we will look forward to having you. Yes, Rabia, go ahead, please. Rabia, you are asking some question.
Assalamu
What
alaikum.
can you?
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay,
Yes, we
so
can
my
hear you.
question is, so what are you expecting from us? Actually, I'm a CS graduate from NED. So, what are you expecting from us as part of your team? What skills actually or what experience are you expecting?
I think the better answer can be provided by my team on in Pakistan itself. But in general, the expectation is that you should be really good from C perspective. For instance, the one language that we prefer that people know is C. The second is basic OS concepts, right? Basic networking concepts. I mean, you should be familiar at least a little bit about about networks. For instance, what is TCP/IP? I'm not saying that we expect you to know in detail exactly all the packet formats, what is happening, how the handshake happens, how the congestion control happens in TCP/IP, and all of that stuff. But at least somewhat, I mean, understanding of okay, there is a protocol. This is TCP/IP. This is Ethernet. This is this basic level understanding of networking protocols. Extremely good programming, capabilities, and some operating system understanding. As long as if you have these three things in your hand, I think we will hire you. I assume Zafir can highlight a little bit more on this, but my belief is if you have these three, this is all we talk about, Rabia.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes, Zishan raised his hand. If you can
Zishan, go ahead,
ask.
please.
Okay, I have a question that what's your business plan? Are you providing services to the customers out there in US, or you have plans to tape out your own SoCs or chips or any peripheral IPs?
Yes. Yeah, so I think that's what we talked about a little bit. But yes, the plan is to tape out a chip.
Actually, I joined very late,
Little
and
late.
maybe I
That's
missed
okay.
that
No
part.
problem. No problem. I think it is good to hear this again. So we are planning to tape out in TSMC 7 nanometer. TSMC is the name of the fab in Taiwan, which will develop a chip for us in a technology node called 7 nanometer. Now, just to highlight this, very high level, when I'm saying it's 7 nanometer, that means the minimum size of a transistor can be as small as 7 nano. Nano, you understand, is 10 is to the power minus 9. That's how small uh, the size of the transistor is. So we will be taping out a chip in TSMC 7 nanometer, which is pretty big. And the plan is to go forward and sell this chip to anybody who needs it, any cloud vendor or anybody who needs it, any telco, for instance. Perhaps in Pakistan, there may be telcos who might require some local cloud or something. Then we will be able to sell them this chip in Pakistan as well. So today, our competition is basically big companies like Intel, like Mellanox and others. Mellanox is acquired by Nvidia and Broadcom, of course. So these are some of the big companies who are driving this market today. And hopefully, the belief is that in 400 gig, this will not be as simple as that. I mean, they need to change their architecture. And since we will be the first ones with 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 the entire energy going into this particular architecture as a startup, we'll have an upper hand among these guys, and that's why we believe it's possible for us to go forward with them. Does that answer your question? I don't know if it makes sense, Hassan.
I guess here there could be some internet issue.
Sure, no
Will
problem.
have maybe probably. So if there's someone who has any question, can raise his hand or just unmute and ask.
Sir, as you highlighted the minimum requirement for the software department, so can you highlight the minimum requirement or the skills you are looking for in the hardware department?
Yes. Good question. I guess Bharat, you raised it. I can see that. So I think the minimum requirement from a hardware perspective, I don't know if Verilog or VHDL or some sort of HDL language is taught in these days in universities. I know perhaps NUST has a program, and I know that maybe LUMS also, but I'm not sure about NLE. Having said that, any of these languages, if you have taken any courses on this, if you have any understanding of any of the FPGAs out there, so for instance, Xilinx and Altera FPGAs are pretty prolific and prevalent in the industry. If you have used any of those, uh, even programming it a little bit, then that's a good first step. But even for them, I would say I would like to see if they have done a good job in C, because without a programming skill, you will not be a good hardware designer as well. I think you could be a okay designer, but you need to be, if you're a good software guy, you don't necessarily have to have, C++ and others, but basic C understanding and maybe written around 1,000 lines of code, at least minimum in your school life. I think it's absolutely critical. Understanding of linked list, understanding of basic trees, understanding of basic data structures. If it is not there, I think even hardware design is going to be very difficult. So go ahead, Dafir.
Yes, so one more point is that beside this, so I see that hardware guys also check for logic design skills, like they check for state machines or things like that. So maybe Saad is in the call as well, so Saad can elaborate further.
I would assume that logic design and all of these things like basic OS design, processor design, CPU architecture is already part of curriculum. That's my assumption. If an electrical engineer should have at least taken one logic design course, or maybe multiple. Uh, So yeah, Saad, go ahead. You can jump in.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Saad.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, so primarily logic design is taught in electrical engineering disciplines. So we are basically looking for the candidates who have at least the things that you have mentioned are extremely critical. Other than that, some basic understanding of microprocessor design and their pipeline, their architecture, also a bit of digital logic design as well. So these 3 to 4 skill sets are extremely critical and required uh, um, to be a good hardware design engineer. That is what we assume and what we believe.
I hope that answers your question. Anybody else? So how is if there is anybody from, let's say, Iqbal, I can see Iqbal Mubashir from Islamabad. What type of courses have you taken?
Yes, I'm basically electrical engineer in telecommunication.
In which
Although
school?
Barrier University, Islamabad.
Okay.
Uh,
And
only
like operating system and logic design, probably these courses were taught, I guess.
yes, DLD and these are these are third.
Okay, good. Yeah, so the expectation is that you should have taken these courses minimum, and then you spent a lot of time on your own. The problem is normally the coursework teaches you nothing, right? From a programming perspective, they assume that you do it yourselves. So that's why we stress on C, because even when I was in school, I did my projects on my own pretty much, for learning C, learning Verilog, or whatever I wanted to do. I did it myself. It wasn't so. The class curriculum only teaches you from the book, but you have to step up. For instance, if I'm saying you should have written at least 1,000 lines of C code, I guess none of the school work requires you to write 1,000 lines of C code. Most of them are
Yes.
pretty straightforward, right? So
Instead of
yeah,
you're working on a final year project.
yeah. Final year project is one thing, but even final year project, people like four of you guys will put together something total of like
Yes,
a couple of hundred lines, am I right?
yes.
And that's about it. But it's out of your own curiosity. Like for instance, one of the things, a very simple thing is learning linked list, am I right? As we said, is one of the critical data structures. You can think about designing an editor, right? Something like a very simple editor, a VI type of editor, which can actually use all the linked list capabilities. It probably will consume a couple of hundred lines. I assume even up to 1,000 lines if you write a really good one. Similarly, assembler or some sort of compiler for trying to understand how to do parsing and stuff. Am I right? Maybe some sort of regular expression engine in C that you can write a C engine which can actually do a library which can actually do the entire regular expressions. I'm not sure if you're familiar with regular expressions, but that's a method of parsing basic strings and things. So these are the things which, if you pick up, and these are generic stuff, I'm right. If you pick up and finish it, it'll give you a good perspective on programming. And similarly, on a hardware side, from a Verilog perspective, you can pick up any decent project which is available. So, for instance, there are a lot of code available on multiple Git platforms which actually talk about these things. But you can pick up a very simple thing like multi-port RAMs or some other some sort of ALU or something which can help you get to a point where uh, you have enough skills from a Verilog perspective, or maybe just download some project from Xilinx and try to compile it, synthesize it, and understand how that project entire thing works. This is not this. I mean, none of the universities that I know, even in US, nobody goes through these things in that much detail. They touch it and move on. It's up to a person who is involved in this and who wants to do this. Actually, is the one who succeeds. In the end, everybody succeeds in the career, right? I mean, no 40-year-old think of himself as not successful, especially if he's. But getting out of the box. Once you start your career in one direction, for instance, if you only learn databases and focused on this, you'll eventually go to some sort of bank and you'll be successful, hopefully. But if you're thinking in terms of doing cutting edge stuff, then dream big is the place to come and focus, right? And for that you need to know some of the basic Verilog and C and then do some projects on your own to hone your skills in that area. Okay, who else is there from?
Yes, Rauf, you can go ahead.
Hello, sir. Am I audible enough?
Yeah, you are.
Yes, we have studied Verilog and VHDL, but it was very mediocre. Since you have asked that whether they teach this course at an university, yeah, they teach it, but as you have earlier stated, they touch it on the very superficial level, but they do not go into advanced. And my next question is, sir, is the test scheduled tomorrow will have mixed questions from software plus hardware side, or they would be of separate depending upon the major of as our degree is?
I don't know the answer. Software or
Well, we have different tests. If you have interest in software, we'll give you the software test, and if you have interest in hardware, we'll give you that one.
Thank you so much.
okay. I think our test is pretty intense. It'll give the perspective to you also that I think what you should have studied. If, let's say, even if you get mediocre score, at least you get a chance to take a look at the test and understand your skills, what you have learned in the last 4 or 5 years you spent in the university. So it's a good starting point. And whether you join us or not, but that will at least gives you the perspective of where you should be focusing. So, for instance, if you think of yourselves as a programmer doing a programming test, you should be able to get good score. If not, you will know where you stand, right? And then you perhaps focus and come back again, maybe in 3 to 6 months time frame, or maybe 2 to 3 months time frame. We'll conduct this test again, and you may be successful at that time.
Yes. So one point is that this test is for now for NAD, but we have another office in Punjab, that is in Lahore basically. So we are also covering the universities step by step in that area as well. So the goal is that we will cover all the universities in a cycle, and we will keep on covering. So for now, we are visiting NAD, but we will visit other universities as well.
Yes, and any. So, what about people from Islamabad? For instance, Iqbal, you are in Islamabad. If you want to take this test in Lahore, is this possible for you to move down to Lahore, or you expect us to start a branch in Islamabad?
Yes, basically I'm working from home near Lahore, Narangmandi.
Oh, okay. So you are from Lahore though. But let's say if
Yes.
you are from Islamabad, I think it will be more. It'll be a little bit tough for you to move down to Lahore, or it's not a
No,
big deal.
it's quite easy for me because it's financially and other things is quite stable for me. It's good for me to move on Lahore.
Okay, wonderful. Anybody else has any questions? How about is anybody from Lahore in this other than? I mean, I know you're just saying Islamabad, so but I'm ignoring you right now. I'm talking about others from Lahore, like let's say Lums or UET perhaps.
Yes, sir, Salan.
Okay, good.
Sir.
Assalamu alaikum, yes. Seth.
Sir, I am Saeed Darsalani and I'm from Lahore, and currently I am studying in NUST Karachi campus and studying electrical engineering.
Oh, you are in Karachi, even though you are from Lahore.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then you can also take the test, I guess. I don't know if it is only for NEDians or it's extended towards everybody in Zafir.
Yes, for now it is we are visiting NAD, so they will allow only NAD person. But yes, he can forward his resume to our HR, and we will when we will visit NUST, or or maybe we can call him in our office as well. So yes, we are welcoming to everyone.
So what is the difference, Arsalan, between NUST Karachi and NUST Islamabad? Are you taking like offline type of courses, or how does that work out?
सर बेसिकली जो है इस्लामाबाद में ये है कि फैकल्टी थोड़ी बेहतर होती है, लेकिन कराची में भी बेस्ट है, इतना कोई इशू नहीं है। मेरा मतलब लाहौर काफ़ी दूर है, तो इस्लामाबाद पास पड़ता है, तो ये हुआ था कि कराची में मैंने कहा कोई मसला नहीं। तो ये है कि बस स्किल्स आपको अपने डेवलप करने होते हैं खुद, और खुद स्किल्स पे काम करना होता है, चाहे जगह जो मर्जी हो। तो मैंने कराची को चूज़ किया था। ज़्यादा कोई इतना फ़र्क नहीं है। मेरे कुछ फ्रेंड्स हैं इधर से ट्रांसफ़र करके वापस इस्लामाबाद भी गए, तो इतना खास फ़र्क नहीं है। एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन का फ़र्क है थोड़ा, क्योंकि कराची वाली जो नस्ल है वो नेवी के अंडर आती है, मिलिट्री बैकग्राउंड है, तो इधर थोड़ी स्ट्रिक्ट रूल्स हैं, हमें काफ़ी सख्ती होती है यहाँ पे, और बाकी वो सिविलियन बेस्ड है, तो इधर कम सख्ती होती है। ये एक डिफरेंस है कैंपसेस में।
I see. Because I don't think so. NED has branches in Islamabad or in Lahore. NED is only in Karachi, I guess.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Walaikum Assalam. Yes.
Sir, my name is Hussain Tariq. Sir, currently I am studying from GIK Ghulam Ishaq Khan Institute of Engineering Sciences. सर मेरी जो डिग्री है ना वो बेसिकली सेमीकंडक्टर एंड माइक्रो इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स की है। हमें सर यहाँ पे
That's
बताया
wonderful.
जाता है कि आप चिप्स वगैरह को कितना डिजाइन कर सकते हैं सेमीकंडक्टर्स वगैरह को। तो सर काइंडली आप क्या हमें बता सकते हैं कि मतलब हम लोगों की बेसिकली किस तरह आप लोग हमें जॉब देंगे, किस टाइप की, मतलब अपने ऑफिस में, स्टार्टअप वगैरह में, इंडस्ट्री में।
So semiconductor में क्या पढ़ा? What do you study in there? I mean, is this related to fab design, or you're talking about still Verilog, VHDL, and hardware design, logic design, and stuff like that?
ये सर हमने बेसिकली सर VHDL भी पढ़ा है जिसमें हमने सर कोडिंग वगैरह की है। उसके अलावा सर हम लोग पढ़ते हैं कि सेमीकंडक्टर्स को मतलब हम किस तरह यूज़ कर सकते हैं, हम चिप्स किस तरह बना सकती हैं, डिज़ाइन किस तरह कर सकती हैं, और उनकी जो टेक्निक्स होती हैं उन्हें मेजर करने के लिए लाइक कंडक्टिविटी और तो हम सब उसके बारे में पढ़ रहे हैं सर।
Okay, I'm still not 100% sure, but basically fab design. So, from an ASIC design perspective. So actually, what happened in the past, almost over 20 plus years, all the design activities have moved fabless, which means that design inside the fab. This is all chemistry, right? The silicon and germaniums and other stuff which are used and amalgamated and form the eventual chip for you. We are not concerned about that because everybody is doing design in Verilog, and then they take it to the back end. They based on that they create something called GDS, which actually ships out to these fabs, and then they do the manufacturing for us. So if you are purely studying semiconductor, which in US, for instance, if you're saying I'm studying pure semiconductor, which means you could be doing one of many things. But if you are doing like Verilog design, VHDL design, and trying to understand basic circuit design, for instance, when you said we're studying conductivity or capacitance and this and that, all of those things are related to basic design part of it. So basically, it's like an electrical engineering course. If that is the case, then huge utility in this company. I think we are looking for people like that. Now, if you have the other part of it could be board design. That if you are being taught that how to design a board, what type of boards, that would also be helpful. Perhaps not right away, but in the next 6 to 8 months, we will be hiring, guys who are actually good in board design, and perhaps who understand Allegro. I'm not sure if you have studied that Allegro, which is a cadence tool for designing boards. That could also be a huge utility inside the company.
Yes. So I have two questions. So basically one question. So Intel also follow this path that like they design fabulously and then they outsource to TMC or some company for this chip manufacturing, or they can incorporate these analog aspect in their design.
Okay, except for Intel. Okay, so let me put it this way. Except for Intel, none of the other companies today in US have mainstream fabs, right? Intel, for their own processors, has some fab available. Except for the processors, everything else that they do is pretty much fabless. Even in the case of processors, they still design as a fabless in-house. But what happens when it goes to their fab? So they're not shipping it to some other fab. They're shipping it to their in-house fab. But the activity is still pretty much fabless. Does that make sense, After? So they have their own fab, true.
Okay.
But the designers are still designing as if they're designing for a fabless environment.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
because the flows and methodologies are so good now,
Yes.
fabulous flows and methodologies, that you don't have to necessarily design from scratch.
Okay. Okay. Yes. So I see. So next point is, so basically you talk about Allegro and Cadence. So basically in Pakistan there's a company Altanova RD. I worked there for 3 months initially. So they have their setup in Shara Faisal Road where our office located, and they
Sure.
are around maybe 100 plus people. They design load boards. So I just want to say that there is some in-house competence as well available for this type of work. They design load boards, and you know that load boards are working with ATE automated test equipment. So they design boards for Intel and Altera and other advanced chips. So when we reach at that level, we also have that type of talent in our Karachi as well.
Okay, that's wonderful. Yeah, I think I know those guys. I know some of the guys in Al. You says Alta Nova, is that the name?
Yes.
Yes, I think I know some of the guys from that company as well. They approached me in the past. We do need load boards for sure. Without a load board, we cannot test our chips, and perhaps we could use those guys. We'll see when
Okay.
it comes to that point.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
I know that in Pakistan there is no manufacturing board facility. I'm not sure if these guys are manufacturing. I think all they are doing is just designing and then shipping it out to some other place where the boards gets manufactured.
Yes. Yes. At that time they follow this.
Yeah, I think that's all we have right now. Even though creating a fab which is doing uh, board design is not like impossible, especially if you use some. Anyways, I think I don't want to go into too much technical details here, but I think most of these manufacturing is done outside US, outside Pakistan. But designing, yeah, you can design anything. Like that's an advantage of fabless also. That because of this fabless, now Saad can sit in Pakistan and design the block for us, or maybe in other team members in Vietnam and other places can design a block for us, and then we can just use that block to tape out in Taiwan. So designed all over the world, it combined in probably one place, and then ship it out to Taiwan for we call it tape out, or for fab for manufacturing. Any other question? So what type of questions you hear from them, Zafir? Is this or
So basically, normally people are curious about work environment and nature of work and office environment. So I think we have addressed these points. So one point I think I would like to say is that you already mentioned that in US there are some extraordinary talented people with you. So for people, so basically we in our team there are some members from our competitors like Intel and Mellanox. So this is for young generation, that even the person who are working in Intel or Mellanox or other company, they also in US it is normal that they work for a startup and they develop new things. So in Pakistan this is rare concept. So when people come, they think that they compare it with well settled organization. So that would not be the case, but we are trying to improve our standards and our work environment. But yes, this is a startup and we need energetic people. So we have to consider this, that others also have left their comfort zone and they are not delivering. So we expect the same from you as well, and we are welcome.
that's right. Actually, that's a very good point. A team today we have is from all over the place. Broadcom, Intel, Marvell, Cavium. Name any big company, and then we have around 20 plus people now in the team, and none of them are actually from startup. Most of them are from, except for me, of course. I've been doing a bunch of startup of my own, but pretty much everybody else is from big companies. So they jump based on if this company has some potential. They jump and then help us out. So I think that is the culture in US, and I hope you guys understand that. I mean, from a Pakistan perspective, uh, the issue is the technology companies are very few, and it's very difficult to find a place in one of those places. Otherwise, you would be doing some mundane work. I mean, doing all these learning. I mean, C, C++, all the operating system stuff. If you have learned all of that stuff in GIK, in NUST, in NAD, in UET, LUMS, and all of those places, I think the utility is only if you join some of the cutting edge companies. Otherwise, from US or from anywhere else, I don't care if it is US or China or UK, but it's absolutely critical that you at least spend first few years, if not the entire life, in some of these high energy and high uh, learning type of an environment. Otherwise you will lose that vigor in you. I hope that makes sense.
So let's see if there are any other questions. Otherwise, we'll just end this webinar, I guess.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. I'm Huzafa from Lahore, and I have this question. I have joined just a little bit late, so if this question is addressed already, so just sorry for that. So the question is like Dream Big is a service-oriented organization, or it's like it is working on some of their own products?
So we are working on our own product. So we are working on a smart NIC, which is our product. We do not provide any services to anybody at this point. We are once we have a chip out, then we will be full-fledged chip supplier to other cloud vendors.
Okay.
So it is a product company.
Okay. All right. So yeah, another question, sir. There is like very little human resource available in this field, and students usually focus on those areas where they can quickly get the jobs. And if we talk about like semiconductor, so we haven't like heard about this field maybe a few months ago. So dream big, like playing any kind of role to spread the knowledge of semiconductor, maybe any sort of course or training program for the university students, maybe last year students or maybe recent graduates, to create more human resource in this field. Is there any like plan or in future maybe?
Very good question, Josefa. I think we had some discussions around this with my team in Pakistan, existing team in Pakistan. We are looking into it. We have had discussions with folks from different universities as well. I'm professors I'm talking about. I know some of the professors at Bahria has contacted me. Some of the other Keith is also a place where people have contacted me. UIT, and we are looking into putting something together so that we at least roll out courses like this, like semiconductor courses, that can actually help accelerate the human resources available. So I agree, it's very difficult to find resources unless you work on it. So fortunately, there are other companies like Lempromelon, I guess is the name, and then Digitech, and few other companies. Like there's a company name, not a company. There's a non-profit organization called MERL, is also working with UIT, which is Osman Institute of Technology in Karachi, and they are working on some of the projects. So some work already started. Having said that, we should participate in this as well. And now, with a team of like 70 plus people, I think we should introduce at least some software and maybe some hardware courses to the final year students. And I think we will work on this. Give us some time. I think we'll roll out at least one course in both areas, software as well as hardware.
Okay, so sir, is there any plan of collaboration with these organizations that are already working in this space within Pakistan?
We can collaborate. I think I'm collaborating with Merle in the background. We are helping them out as much as we can. Um, the main people who are actually working in this area, I know them, and actually one of the volunteer is from some of the big companies here. He works for Intel, and he is volunteering his time into training people on semiconductor in Pakistan. And there are other people also worldwide who are involved in this activity. So I'm in the background. I'm helping, but we should come in now. I think it's time for DreamBig to come in the forefront because we have a presence in Pakistan. These guys do not, right? So if they offer some course, it's pretty difficult for them to manage those type of courses. Whereas for us, it's relatively easy. As I said, we have team. Uh, so at least in Lahore and Karachi, where we have offices, we should offer courses. And as I said, hopefully in the next 2 to 3 months time frame, we will introduce at least one course in Pakistan. I don't know which university we'll collaborate with, depending upon whose professors are more forthcoming, and we'll do that. Good suggestion. We have already been working on it, but this is excellent idea.
Maybe like as I'm a graduate of ITU, so maybe collaboration with ITU would
ITU stands for
Information Technology University, Lahore.
Information Technology University.
Yes,
Yeah, why
so
not?
we in mental graphics there are some folks from ITU. I work with them. They are very skilled. So in computer science, at least in my experience. So yes, it is good university.
Yeah, so maybe Zafir, we should think about putting at least uh, one course on Linux drivers or something. I don't know how will we do this for the final year student, a 3 month course or a 2 month course, which Asim or one of our guys may go once a week and give lecture on. And similarly, Assad and Amir and Ubaid should think about putting something uh, for Karachi, I guess, and Lahore on the hardware side.
Yes, yes. So one point for Josefa. So the one who has asked this question. So you can send your LinkedIn profile to our HR. We will contact with you as well in ITU.
Sure. Like I will send you. And maybe the one last question, the product the DreamBig is working on, is it like RISC-V based or some other architecture?
So we are not RISC-V based. We do have processors on chip. We have ARM processor uh, as well as a processor named it's called Tensilica. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the company. They have a product called Extensa. That's the processor that we are using. So it's not RISC-V based right now.
Okay. Can you please repeat the name of processor?
It's called Extensa, Xtensa, Extensa,
Thank you.
or we have ARM
Extensa
53 as well. Yes,
ARM 50. Okay. So,
Cortex.
like, sir, thank you so much for responding to all these questions. I think, focusing on creating a human resource and providing some sort of material where students can get like easily start learning in this field will be really helpful. And I am like really grateful that you are already working on it. So, thank you so much from all our participants.
Sure. Hamza, you have some question?
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Hamza, and I'm doing my master's in IC design in Pakistan currently, and
From where?
from NUC, yes, fast.
Okay.
Yes, and could you please share your contact details, because I know some other people is also working on a fabulous model and trying to make some startup in Pakistan, and we are a team and a batch of more than 40 people doing masters in IC design. We are working on analog side, digital side, architecture side. So
Sure. You can get my information from Zafir or from anybody, but in general, my name is Suhail, as you can see at DreamBigSemi.com.
thank you so much.
Thanks. But it would be good if you contact first the team in Pakistan itself, and then perhaps me. But if it is a question related to some starting a startup and stuff like that, maybe we can talk offline on this.
Yes, I know some people are working on a fabulous model and trying to make a startup. So, could you please shed some light on the point that where can they start? How can they start?
Well, starting, as I said, because of the fabless, this is a huge opportunity and people can start at any point. But it requires some fundamental understanding of what is the product, what is the market. So I think this is not just what you know from a technology perspective, but what is going to be the market, right? Otherwise, doing a semiconductor startup is a huge task, and you need a lot of funding to get to a point where you could take any benefit out of it, right? So normally, for a startup which is doing something in Pakistan, it could be an FPGA-based work, and I don't know what type of thought process there. So I can only advise once I know what is the target market, and what are you looking for, right? For instance, if you're trying to build a chip, it's going to be difficult, but it could be possible if you're designing a chip for certain specific market in Pakistan, which is not in the cutting edge node, but in a previous nodes, and a very small chip just to address a certain niche. It's possible, yes, and it's probably not as costly either. I mean, all of these things are possible once I know what is the area that you guys are focusing on, and then I can advise. Anybody else?
So I guess we should just end this now. Perhaps there are no questions again.
Perfect. So thank you for joining the team call. I guess this is awesome. I'm really looking forward to seeing at least some of you guys joining our DreamBig team in Pakistan, in Lahore or in Karachi, either. Yes, somebody has just raised his hand,
Yeah.
so I would. Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead,
Omar.
please.
Omar, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Omar.
Assalamualaikum, sir. Sir, I am Umar Ahmad Khan from Nazir University. From
Which
Karachi.
university? Sorry.
Nazir University.
Okay.
I'm an electrical student in fourth semester. Sir, my question is, could your team visit in our university for conducting some labs, some workshops?
Well, it's possible. I think Farhat and Zafir and Saad may be able to, or maybe Ubaid may be able to answer this question better than I do. But yeah, we are looking forward to seeing people in the field, in university as well. So why would it not be possible? Just coordinate with these
So
guys.
how
And
to
they should.
contact with your team?
info@dreambigsemi.com, I think, is the best way to contact.
So what is the procedure of only we share by profile or CV like?
HR@dreambigsemi.com is another one, or info@dreambigsemi.com is another one. So you can send an email. I think one of our team members will get back to you.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, perfect. If there is nothing else, then I think we should adjourn this meeting. And I'm available. So if there is any specific,
yes.
yes.
So this last point that we are coming. Yes. So we are coming to Andy tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. So those who are Andians are welcome to come and give their test.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for joining. Hassan, you can. I think we're done. I guess. Am I right?
Yeah. So just thank you for joining, all of you, and inshallah I'll see you tomorrow in the test. Inshallah. Yeah. I'm sharing the link of HR in chat. Farad Bhai has already shared it, so that's fine.
Yes, already shared. Hassan, people are asking for the link of the video, so you can share the video link as
well. Okay, I'll share the link.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you guys for joining.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.